Wizards of the Coast, now is the time to expand the reserve list. Hi everyone and welcome back. MTG Moxman here. If you're new to my channel and you're finding me out there in the nacho cheese universe of YouTube, well, welcome aboard. I hope you enjoy this content today. And before we get started, a big shout out to Nikachu MTG for having me on that coffee time chat. It really riled me up at the end, reminding myself how much I love to play Magic. You Merfolk Master, I hope you guys check out his content. It is some awesome stuff over there, and you can see him every day. He does a coffee chat. It's awesome. Now, let's get started here. The reserve list. Those 572 cards of goodness that are supposedly not going anywhere soon. They're going to stay there, locked away. And that's kind of sad, isn't it, when you think about it that way? They're locked away. New players coming in have less of a chance to access them. Wizards has a problem with their cards holding value. That's interesting. The reserve list is locked away. Can't touch it. New sets come out. There's some cool cards, but they always crash in value or nobody cares about them. Well, how do we solve this problem? This is quite the dilemma to think about. Oh, that's right. Let's add to the reserve list, Wizards. Open up your gate. Go ahead. Change the official policy and start adding cards onto the reserve list. It's not a hard thing to do. You make a big announcement. You put the big banners and flyers up. You post things on Arena, however you want to do it. But you say for Paper Magic, we will be adding 2 cards from every set here forward onto the reserve list that cannot be reprinted. That's pretty easy, right? Now, that'll do several things. Number 1, it'll anger a lot of players. Yes, it will, because there's those players who think that no card should be on the reserve list. I get it. They have other ways of playing Magic called proxying cards for fun. Just write the card down, glue a piece of paper over top and say what it is. You can do that just to play the game. But when you're trying to divide yourselves up and say, I want to have some value in this game, Wizards wants to charge a certain price point, then all you have to do is add to the reserve list. Add a couple of cards. It's going to stabilize box prices. You're going to have players who start investing in the newer cards. And remember, you don't have to announce what those reserve list cards will be till the end of the year. So every player had a fair chance to buy that product that year of all the sets that Wizards of the Coast put out. You don't have to announce it when the set comes out. You can announce it at a big unveiling at the end of the year, Wizards. You can say these are the 3 products that we're adding to the reserve list this year, and these are the 6 cards or 8 cards or 12 cards, however they decide to do it, being added on. Imagine that. You're going to stabilize your box prices. You're going to add luck to some of these new players who happen to have these cards and go, wow, this card's now worth, it's a reserve list card. Yes, the print runs will be higher, but guess what? The player base is a lot bigger too. They'll still be on the reserve list. It'll hold a certain amount of value. Now, the old reserve list players will look at it and say, wow, they're not taking away my reserve list cards, they're adding new cards on. And Wizards could design better cards to fit the reserve list going forward. They wouldn't all have to be mythics or they can be some cards that are harder to get that are pretty cool mythics. Some could be rares, they could be commons, but useful cards that a lot of players might find some value in later down the road. Or Wizards could do an adjustment to this and say, you know what, we're only going to print this particular type of card on the reserve list. So this first printing will be a full art foil. It'll be considered on the reserve list because we will never reprint that full art foil again. Wizards just has to say it. Put it in writing, add it to the official policy on their page, lock and load it, and watch what happens on the market. They'll be driving more sales. You'll have players who never had the opportunity to get some cool reserve list cards now saying, hey, I have a card worth some money. It's on the reserve list. I can now work my way up, which means you'll be driving things in a different direction. And it doesn't mean those players will go after the old Power 9 stuff. The newer players collecting the new reserve list may decide to go after just newer reserve list cards from eras they remember. Imagine that. Imagine the value we're driving into the market. You could do that with serialized cards, Wizards. There's a lot of options open to you. It makes me wonder why they're not doing it. Because they're probably afraid that they're going to put some cool card on there that they want to reprint later. We talked about this on Nikachu's channel, where it's like you could do a cold foil version of it. Just do the full art foil in that particular brand only that one time. And then you can reprint it in some regular border or something as a reprint later on. But never that card again. That one's on the reserve list. See what I'm saying here? We could have a win-win for everybody. You could still reprint copies of that card that are really cheap, but have that one version that's considered reserve list and added to a new reserve list style. And then you could have that going forward. You could have serialized cards synced up with some of those, which would be really cool. And you'd be actually having legitimate value from those who want to collect the set. It'd be amazing. It blows my mind. Now, I wonder how many of you have thumbs down this video. Not that I can tell anymore. I kind of miss not knowing how many people were like, ah! But it's very interesting. How many players would be opposed versus pro? Imagine a new player coming in and they get lucky and they open up some card on the reserve list a year later, 2 years later, from a random pack. That'd be pretty awesome for that player. Especially if it happened to be one of the better cards that got added to the reserve list that year, or a serialized card. You see where I'm going? It could be a very unique thing to do. Almost like when they did the secret treasures. I just think it'd be a cool thing to have them try and do. They could always reverse their minds again. They've done it enough times. We won't even notice. But the idea of expanding the reserve list has come across a lot of people in my player groups. A lot of players I know are not opposed to the idea. Come on, Wizards. You got to be thinking about this. Or maybe they have thought about it and they're not sure what would happen. Just like serialized cards. You dip your toe in and see what happens, Wizards. You're doing it now. Try to do it. Give it a shot. I wonder if anyone from Wizards of the Coast watches these videos. Come on, guys. You could do this. And then after you've started driving some more value, you're going to see your boxes are selling better long term. Secondary market investors who have bought your boxes may buy more, which helps your bottom line at Wizards because now we're storing some boxes at our homes. You see where I'm going with this? They could even do a secret layer of cards that are on the reserve list. There's lots of options open to them, but you'd have to have it official, not these hidden pseudo reserve list cards that Wizards doesn't really talk about, but you just don't see them reprinted. I mean, go ahead and put them out there, Wizards. Let people know what's going on. State it on paper. And let the chips fall where they may for a year or two. It isn't going to hurt you that badly, I promise you. If anything, you might be surprised by the results of what players will go to have some cool cards, and knowing that the value of their investment in your products is growing over the years. Just like it did for me when I happened to hold on to my old stuff, or when I went ahead and bought, my Mox Diamond. I paid cash for that, and I know it's going to go up in value. It's like an investment. Wizards, you want more players investing in your product, not less. Not less. Artificial serialized cards by themselves, not enough. Not printing cool cards that players want to play with, definitely the wrong way to go. Wizards, I know it's a big boat to steer, but kind of steer in the right direction. Let's get back on track. Try this kind of stuff out. You might be surprised. So, boys and girls, what do you guys think out there? Should we be expanding the reserve list? Should we be shutting it down and just reprinting everything? Crashing the market down to zero so you can find them like bicycle cards at a card shop where everything's like an ace of spades? I wonder. Guys, let me know what you're thinking. Post some comments in the comment section. Thanks a lot for tuning in. This is MTG Moxman. I look forward to seeing how everything looks on the comment section after this one goes live. And of course, a big shout out to each and every one of my amazing patrons on the channel. Patrons make the world go round. I can't wait for January when we start the giveaways again. It is going to be awesome. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys on the live streams. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Patrons rock. Ah!